What's up, Nat? Simon? How you guys doing? Yeah, so I'm at UCR today. If any of you are wondering, I was gonna post up outside, usually where I usually post up, where there's like an intersection there where cars pass by. It gets pretty busy there actually. It's actually a pretty good spot, but unfortunately, there was like a DoorDash table there when I got there, literally in that spot. So hopefully that's not like a everyday thing, you know. Because that's actually a better spot in my opinion. Way more students pass by through there. Right, it's like an entrance and exit to the school in other words as well. As well, you know, students also, you know, walk by there going from class to class. I'm in the second spot I usually post up at, which is like under a tree next to the bell, I guess you could say. Or the tower, right? I don't know what it's called exactly, but it's like the tower, UCR tower. I don't know the exact name, but yeah, that's where I'm posted at right now. So there is some foot traffic. Hopefully we could get some conversations today. Obviously, that's the goal. But yeah, kind of sucks that that spot outside was taken. So we'll see how it goes. So I guess I wanted to talk about, for example, I'm pretty sure all of you already know how not having a model, right, or a map, for example, doesn't mean that the Earth is not level, right? It doesn't mean that the Earth is a globe now just because we don't have a map, or there's no map to the to the level Earth, right? But it's funny how trolls will like to focus on that, and like, oh, you don't have a map, you don't even know the layout, right? Therefore, the Earth cannot be flat, for example, or level. The Earth must be a globe, right? Because we have the better explanation. But obviously, understanding physics, and the physics of water, when contained at rest, that shows that the globe Earth is a physical impossibility, right? We understand that the Earth is level because it's covered in water, and water, when contained at rest, lays level, and the oceans are level. That's why the term sea level. That's where the term sea level comes from. Level meaning horizontal. So we don't need to know the layout of the Earth, to know that it's level, right? People that like to focus on that or make claims that they know what the layout is, again, making claims about ice walls and all of that, to me, it's irrelevant. Just because we don't know or we don't have a map of the Earth, again, that doesn't change physics. That doesn't change the physics of water. So I wanted to highlight that because now with the motion of the Earth, it's kind of the same thing now. Just because we don't know the exact speed or trajectory of the Earth, that doesn't mean the Earth is not in upwards motion, right? So again, trolls that are trying to pigeonhole you into a certain model, in my opinion, it's no different than with the with the flat Earth maps, and all of that. Again, we don't need to know the layout of the Earth, to know that it's level. That can come after, the majority understand that it is level. Then we could look into that further. Like the layout of the continents, the size of the continents, all of that. Same thing with the motion of the Earth. Again, we don't know the exact speed or trajectory of the Earth. That's a fact. If we're being honest with ourselves, the fact is we don't know the exact speed or motion or trajectory of the Earth or the path that it's taking. 100%, we don't know. What we do know, again, based on physics, is that the force of the Earth is up. So again, focusing on, hey, what's up? You want to give us a shot?
I do.
Yeah, two very easy questions. Let's see if you guys can get it.
Okay.
So here's the first one. So I have 3 box trucks and there is a bowling ball hanging with a string.
Okay.
So one of these box trucks is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So out of these 3, which one is at rest?
I feel like this is at rest. It's this one?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, how did you know that one's at rest?
Because it's just not...
It's not swinging, right?
Yeah,
That's not moving, exactly. So which one is accelerating forward?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
How did you guys know that's accelerating
Because
When it goes forward.
it's like shit just goes back. You're like, oh, like when a car goes forward, you're like, oh.
Get pushed back,
So
exactly.
it pushes back the bowling ball. So the backwards one is this one.
Yes,
Because
yes.
you're going...
It's because of inertia.
Yeah.
It resists the motion.
Exactly.
So could we say though that the bowling ball is being left behind when the whole truck is moving? The bowling ball is simply being left behind, and the tension's coming from the truck moving forward.
Yeah.
The tension on the string.
Mhm.
It's not coming from the ball swinging itself back, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. You guys got the first one already. Yeah. Okay. The second one is pretty similar, but instead of a bowling ball, it's a helium balloon tied to a string. So again, out of these 3, which one is at rest?
This one.
Okay. Yes. Which one's accelerating forward?
Why do I feel like it's a different answer?
I can't think.
I guess so. Is A going forward?
No,
No?
it's actually C. So in this case, the bowling ball is obviously more dense than the
Yeah.
air, so the air is not able to push the bowling ball, so again, it gets left behind.
Yeah.
In this case, the helium balloon is less dense than the air, so the air is more dense. So when the whole van starts to move forward, the air inside is also moving forward, but because the helium is less dense, it's able to get pushed by the air. So the helium balloon gets pushed forward. So you guys heard of buoyancy, right?
Yeah.
So buoyancy is a chain reaction of motion. Something pushing on something else that's pushing something else. So I guess the less dense always gets pushed by the more dense. So here I have an example here that I did inside a cargo van. Again, based on the principles that we just went over, again, the apple is more dense and the helium is less dense. What direction did I accelerate this van? To the left or to the right? To the right, exactly, because that's what's that's what's showing you the matter showing you. Another thing is that matter always reacts to acceleration 100% of the time. So here I did it with a ping pong ball and a steel ball inside of a water container. So what direction would you say I accelerated?
That way.
Exactly, same direction, because again, the bowling ball, that's buoyancy. It goes in the same direction as the force, right? So here's one more. Here I have two water bottles, again, with a steel ball and a ping pong ball. They were both at rest, but I only accelerated one down. Which one would you say I accelerated down? The one on the left or the one on the right?
Like down.
Yeah, as in like vertically. Which one did I accelerate down?
Probably right.
Yes. Yeah, that's obvious, because that one shows the reaction. Matter reacts to the acceleration,
Yeah.
and that matter always does that. So the one on the left, it was actually free fall. So I had the water bottle like this, and I released it. So do you guys believe when I'm holding it and I release it into free fall, do you guys believe it accelerates down to the earth from being at rest when I release it?
Yeah.
Yeah? So again, the one on the left was free fall, but we can see that matter didn't react to that acceleration down. So I don't know if you guys knew, gravity is just the theory. So a force that on free fall has never been measured. So matter doesn't react to acceleration in free fall because, again, there is no acceleration in free fall because there is no force in free fall. And that's why gravity is just a theory. So again, if we understand buoyancy is a chain reaction of motion or a force, if I have a helium balloon here on Earth and I release it, what direction does it go? Yes, why does it go up?
Because it's like less dense than like oxygen.
Than the air, exactly. The air is actually pushing it up. So the air.
The same way as like why like icebergs float on top of water.
Yes, the water is more
Ice
dense
is less dense
than the water. Yes, and water is able to push it up. So we know inanimate matter cannot move by itself. So what's pushing up the air to be able to push up the helium?
Pushing the air.
Yeah, because the air has to be moving in that same direction to be able to move the helium, just like with the van experiment.
Like gravity and sun, like the energy from the sun and stuff like that, I'd say. Because like that's like that's like air travels in like circular formations. Like
Okay.
It goes up and it goes.
Yeah, so basically, because I know a lot of people would say, oh, gravity, pulling force of gravity. But again, we're being told that gravity acts in the downwards direction, but then buoyancy goes in the opposite direction of the force, which again, it goes against, if the air is being pushed down, it can't push helium up because the air has to be moving up. So the fact is that Earth is actually pushing up the air, which is pushing up the helium. That's the chain reaction of motion that we experience. So you guys believe the Earth is a ball, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So again, if we could prove that it's the Earth literally moving up, pushing up, that's creating the pressure here on Earth and buoyancy. If up is relative on a ball, and which if you're standing here, up is this way. If you're standing down here, up. In other words, in every direction away from the center. If we can prove that it's the Earth moving up, how can the Earth be moving up simultaneously if it was a ball?
That's a great question. How can it be
Moving up at the same time in every direction?
like in every direction?
Yes, at the same time. If it was a ball.
I don't know.
So that would mean that the Earth will have to be expanding, which wouldn't work. So it actually wouldn't work. So in order for people to believe in the ball Earth theory, they first have to believe in the theory of gravity being a pulling force, which has never been detected or measured. Again, that's why gravity is just a theory. The fact is the Earth, the force of the Earth is a push, not a pull. So again, the Earth is literally pushing up against you right now. You're not being pulled down towards it. So the Earth is moving up through space, literally. But it's not a ball, because again, that wouldn't work. It would just explode. So the fact is, the Earth is a level plane, and we're all standing on it, and it's literally moving up like this. So again, up is not relative, like they're trying to tell us. Up is, orientation is singular, not relative. So everybody's up is the same here on Earth. So if you live in China, if you live in Europe, everybody's up is the same. It's all parallels, in other words. So again, this is the #1 proof that debunks the globe, that the Earth the force of the Earth is a push, not a pull, because again, without the pulling force of gravity, they can't explain how a ball Earth even exists. Therefore, they can't even explain how the sun and all of that works in outer space, because all of that is just stories that are backed up by a false premise, which is the theory of gravity. So that's the number one proof. So if I was to ask you guys respectfully, what's the number one proof that makes you believe the Earth is a ball?
When like people are up in space and they kind of just like show like the outside it, you can kind of see the curvature. And the same way with like when someone has like a big freaking like a I don't know, like a selfie stick kind of thing, and they have like a camera, and it's like hella like. You guys
are familiar with like a GoPro lens, a fisheye lens?
Yeah, the fisheye lens. Like you could like, I feel like you can literally see it. Like,
did you guys know the fisheye lens literally warps an image? It bends horizontal lines.
That's true.
So, yeah, the only place again you're ever gonna see curvature of the Earth is through GoPro lenses that curve horizontal lines again, or through CGI images like this. Because these are official NASA images from 2002 and 2012, and they admit that they make these in a computer. So a genuine photograph of the Earth from outer space doesn't exist.
Hasn't been taken?
It hasn't been taken. It doesn't exist. So everything that we're being shown is all CGI, or, again, GoPro lenses that bend horizontal lines, which, again, the fact is, if there was a curvature of the Earth, a physical curvature of the Earth, do you know the radius of the Earth they tell us?
I don't know.
So the radius of the Earth, they tell us, is 3,959 miles, which means there's a circumference, I mean, obviously multiplying that times pi, gives you a circumference of 24,901. So based on this curvature of the Earth that we're being told is there should be curvature every mile. So in the first mile, there should be an 8-inch drop, second mile, 32 inches, and by the third mile, there should be 6 feet of curvature. So again, based on the numbers. So again, using the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we can calculate for that curvature. But if we actually went out to physically measure for that curvature, the physics of water, again, when containing at rest, the surface will always remain level. So a lake, for example, that's miles across will never bend on the surface. It would always form a horizontal surface. But they're trying to tell us that every lake on Earth is bending 8 inches per mile squared, which defies physics.
So 8 inches
per mile squared.
Mile, 16 inches for 2 miles.
No, it's squared. Because if it was just 8 inches every mile, then that would create a pyramid. But they're telling us it's a curve, so every mile after the first increases more and more and more and more because it has to come back around. So it's 8 inches per mile squared. Again, using this simple calculation, b squared per b squared, we can, because they're telling us the radius, and we can measure the distance we're measuring over the Earth. So by multiplying this square times this square gives us the drop. Basically, we just once we calculate for the drop, we just subtract the radius, and that leaves us with what the drop should be.
Yeah. With the white area?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So again, that curvature doesn't exist. It defies physics. So if I showed you an image of me flying or a video of me flying, would you believe I could fly?
No.
Why not?
Because people can't fly.
Exactly. It's a physical impossibility, right? So all these images that they're showing us from outer space of the Earth being a globe, that also defies physics. And not only that, the fact that they admit that they don't have a real image of the Earth from outer space, that kind of shows that they're being disingenuous, obviously.
So then what's real and what's not?
So what is real? That Earth is a level plane, and the fact is nobody knows the true dimensions of it. So how far it extends. A lot of people like to say, oh, where's the edge, right? You will fall off the edge. But here's the fact. The Earth has air pressure, right? 14.7 psi. Again, that's the pressure that's pushing helium balloons up because air has pressure. Water as well. Water has pressure. So in order to maintain pressure, you need a container. So the Earth is a contained system, in my opinion. So nobody can fall off of it because we're inside of it. And again, we're being literally physically contained. Now, has anybody found this container, what it looks like? Maybe the military have, but it's not common knowledge at the end of the day, obviously. But again, you can't fall off the Earth because it's a contained system. So other than images from outer space, is there anything else that triggers you to believe or makes you believe that Earth is a ball? Because obviously images can be easily doctored, right?
I'd say the Coriolis force.
The Coriolis effect?
Yeah, the Coriolis. Because I study geography at Santa Barbara.
Right.
So I kind of know about the stuff and all. The Coriolis force is it's supposed to be a direct result of because the Earth is a sphere.
It's spinning.
It's spinning, and it's also a sphere, and that's how it affects just like the flow of the water, the flow of the air, the flow of like everything.
Have you heard of like toilets supposedly?
Yeah, if you're like on one side of the earth, is your toilet gonna flow this way or is it gonna flow in this way?
Yes, so they've actually done tests that, for example, most toilets in the southern hemisphere are built a certain way so that it flushes in the opposite way of toilets in the northern hemisphere. So they've done tests where they have two different faucets, for example. It doesn't have to be a toilet, it can be faucets. When you fill them up with water and then release the plug, they've shown that they go in opposite directions in the same location. So the Coriolis effect hasn't been proven. Or in other words, the spin of the earth has never been measured either. So again, that's just, in my opinion, just a theory, again, which is not backed by any practical physics or anything real. In other words, it's just hearsay, in my opinion. You know.
Yeah, because also, from what I've learned too, like in like, I was studying like more like environmental sciences and stuff. They also talk about it's not just a like rotation; it's like more of like a rotation mixed with like a wobble kind of.
Okay.
And so it's like not like mechanic. It's more of like, I don't know, I guess natural. But
well, yeah. Again, it comes back to gravity, you know, being the cause. So again, if we could prove that gravity is not pulling objects towards the earth and it's literally the earth moving up to an object. So again, when I have this phone and I release it, it looks like the phone moves down towards the earth, right? But that's because everything else is moving up towards the phone. So we're moving up right now because we're connected to the earth. So it's like when you're in a car, you know, if you're inside a car and you black out the windows and you have a bowling ball there and then you accelerate forward, it's gonna look like the ball went to hit you. But in reality, it's you going towards the bowling ball and hitting the ball.
So do you think the earth is a sphere?
No, it's not.
You think it's flat?
100%. I wouldn't say it's flat because flat has nothing
or
to do
like
with...
not like a perfect sphere, like obviously like...
An oblate sphere, that's
like,
what they say?
It's like bumpy, it's like...
Right. No, it's not a globe at all because you won't be able to stand on the earth if you're underneath it. You know what I'm saying? Because you need gravity to be able to get stuck to the earth. But again, gravity is not a pull, it's a push. So again, us standing on the earth on a level and the earth literally pushing up against us is what keeps us on earth. You know, it's the earth continuously pushing up on us. So again, if you're underneath that...
if we were right here and it was pushing us, it would just push us out?
So if you're in a ball, for example, on top here, right, and the earth is moving up like that, pushing up against you, then that means all the people underneath will get left behind. You know what I'm saying? So again, you have to believe gravity is a pulling force that's pulling everything towards the center in order to explain away how we could get stuck on this ball, which again, that force has never been measured or proven. So you guys know every phone has an accelerometer built in, right? That's how you're able to put it in portrait and landscape. It detects the force of the earth when you're portrait and landscape and your screen switches. That's because an accelerometer is a force detection device. So if you download an accelerometer app, for example, you're able to calculate the force. So if you have your phone at rest and you accelerate this way, it detects an increase in the force. You accelerate in any direction, up, down, it detects that increase in force. However, when you put it into free fall, guess what happens? It goes from 1G to 0. So it detects a deceleration or a lack of force. So even accelerometers in our phones don't detect that force in free fall. So again, that's why gravity has always been a theory, even since Einstein came up, even since Newton came up with their theories, is because again, they're trying to make us believe the earth is something that it's not. So that's why they push these theories on, in schools and everywhere literally to make us believe in the globe earth, because again, without that pulling force of gravity, you can't even conceptualize a globe, not even on paper. So again, the whole globe earth model and everything about outer space is fueled by that theory.
So do you think it's like globe-like? Like, do you think
no.
It's so then what shape is it?
It's a level plane. Again, I don't know how far it extends, and it's being contained somehow. I don't know how the container looks. It could be like some kind of cube.
Imagine like this is a circle, like this is the earth. And
yes, we're all standing on the earth, and then it's being physically contained by some kind of barrier, physical. Okay. So it's like a terrarium.
So then it's flat?
You could say it's flat, but I would say that that's the wrong term. The correct term will be level, because level is an orientation that's relative or perpendicular to the vertical. So level is an orientation perpendicular to the force of the earth, which is vertical. Flat is just, you could have a flat wall. You could have a flat slope. The earth is not a wall or a slope. It's literally the floor, and it's perpendicular to the vertical force, which is a push. You know what I'm saying? So that's why the earth is level, because it has to do with motion, it has to do with a force. So again, I know you've heard of flat earth, right? Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. So over 95% of flat earthers claim the earth is motionless. So they don't claim the earth exerts a force at all. So they
like the forces of pushing upwards.
Yes, they don't. They completely mock it actually. And that's the mainstream flat Earth. That's how they're keeping this whole thing a debate, because now they believe actually objects accelerate down as well by a magical force, no different than gravity. So the globe Earth and the motionless flat Earth are one and the same. It's the two sides of the same coin, pretty much. So like Democrats versus Republicans, we know they're both being controlled by the same entities, you know, just to keep people distracted. So again, the motionless flat Earth, it's what you've heard of, because that's the only thing that gets pushed in YouTube and all that. This motion of the Earth, I only came across it because I came across flat Earth like 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago in 2016. And I only came across the motion of the Earth not even a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years. That's how censored it is. So before the motion of the Earth, I would just use water as the proof. Because again, the surface of water doesn't have the ability to hump on the surface. It always collapses and forms a horizontal surface regardless of scale. So once I came across the motion of the Earth and the explanations behind it and the proofs based on buoyancy, you know, it's without a shadow of the doubt, the force of the Earth is a push. It's literally moving up. And that's what the flat earthers and globe earthers are trying to stay away from.
I have another thing.
Yes.
And it's also like, and maybe this is also something that's like altered, or maybe it's another CGI thing. But have you ever seen those videos where it's like, they take a video of like a ship, and as it's sailing away from the ocean, it like slowly disappears?
Yes. So, you know,
another one.
No, have you heard of you've heard of perspective, right? Like we do have a limit to how far we can see. So I do have some like images here just to show that or highlight that. Let me see where I am. So here, for example,
I want to see everything.
Yeah, definitely. So again, these light poles are all the same height, right? But it looks like, because of perspective, that they're getting lower on the horizon, and eventually you won't be able to see the ones that are all the way further away. Again, because we have like pyramid vision, again, because we have spherical eyes, so we have spherical vision. So everything comes to a point, and that point is basically the limit of perspective, and that's basically what the horizon is. So again, because we don't have infinite vision, you can see it with walls too here in the hallway, or with rail. We know these train tracks are not converging because train tracks are parallel. But again, the further out they go, they come to that vanishing point. Again, that vanishing point is a limit of perspective, and that's what the horizon is. So again, so when boats go over the horizon, again, that's just the limit of how far we can see. They simply go out of sight, you know, because we're not Superman, we can't see forever, you know. So again, the horizon is always level.
So if we could see forever, do you think that we would just see the globe forever?
Yeah, but here's another thing that will prevent us. Atmospheric condensation, I guess you could say. So that's obviously like moisture in the air, so eventually that gets thick further down you see, so you won't be able to see forever. Even if you had infinite vision, it'll be too foggy to see forever. Unless you could suck the whole oxygen out of the earth and have infinite vision, then you could probably see China from here, you know. But
then you wouldn't breathe.
Exactly, we wouldn't exist. Exactly. So again, a lot of flat earthers, I like to call them, you know, fake flat earthers, they like to focus on these experiments of just being able to see things too far and stuff like that, but vision alone is not a physical proof of anything. So I don't really focus on those proofs because they're not real proofs. The proof is in understanding physics, again, water. Understanding that water always collapses and forms a horizontal surface. That cannot be broken. That's because water has property. I don't know if you knew, water cannot be compressed either. So if we have one cubic feet of water, for example, it doesn't matter if you have a 10-ton machine, you can never compress that water. Water cannot be compressed. Just like sand, you can compress sand, right, and make it more smaller. Water, you know, water has properties.
But only to like a certain extent. Like you can't like mix sand like.
I mean, to a certain extent, you can make it to maybe to a little point, you know. Yeah. Again, but water, you can't do that with water. You can't compress it whatsoever. Another thing about water, again, is that it always forms a horizontal surface. So again, these are properties of water, you know, based on physics that cannot be broken. So again, that's the number 2 proof, in my opinion, that debunks the globe, that water doesn't bend on the surface. You know, and the number 1 proof, again, is the lack of a pulling force of gravity. You know, the fact that the Earth it's literally moving up. That's the number 1 thing that's being censored right now, and it's the number 1 lie on Earth, because even flat earthers believe, you know, that there's a pulling force of gravity in free fall, which again, it's completely false. So I'm a part of a minority within the minority. I don't know if you could say. I'm super censored online, so my channel is not going to grow anymore. You know, my channel here, I'll give you guys my channel. And do you guys have any questions for me about this subject? Any other questions? You guys can check this out in your free time. That's my YouTube channel. And I go to other universities too. I go to USC, I go to UCR.
You ever go to
I am a UCR, but UC Irvine. I've been wanting to go to UCLA, but it's kind of like too centric. It's like a lot going on there. Kind of hard.
But I feel like there's a lot going on there where it's like, there's already a lot going on there anyway.
Yeah,
you know, it's
definitely.
like
Yeah, it is. USC, for example, like, it's not too crazy because, you know, I kind of have my spots that I go there already. I know where to park and all of that. So I do go there often as well. But yeah, those are the two main ones here, and USC is where I go. But you guys can check it out. In there are the 6 top proofs that debunk the globe, besides the force of gravity, obviously. You know.
You didn't talk about this one.
Euclidean geometry. Yeah, so you guys heard of blueprints, right? When they do construction. So when they lay out railroads, or when they construct bridges that are miles across, all the blueprints are plumbs and levels, which are horizontals and verticals. You will never see blueprints with curved lines or curved datum lines. All datum lines are parallel and horizontal, and also plumb. All plumb lines are considered parallels as well. So plumb lines are basically verticals. So
do you think this is the same case for like every terrestrial or gas sphere in the galaxy? The world?
Well, that's the thing. Again, let me just show you real quick.
Do you think the moon is also a terrarium?
So nobody knows what the lights in the sky actually are. Nobody's actually been to them. So this is what the stars actually look like when you zoom into them. It looks like literally just lights that are twinkling in water. And these are what the planets look like. So no different than the stars. But this is what they show us.
Yeah.
That they're terra firma, but in reality they're not. They're just lights that twinkle. This is Mars right here. In reality, this is what they show us. Oh, this is CGI. This is NASA. So everything about the sky is basically a red herring, which means it's a false argument when it comes to proving or disproving the globe, because nobody knows what they actually are. Nobody's been that high before to be able to prove what they actually are. So I know you airplanes and helicopters. I don't know if you knew they require to be able to push off of the air to gain lift. So a helicopter, pushes off of the air to gain lift. The air has to be at a certain density to be able to push off of it. The higher you elevate, the less dense the air becomes. I don't know if you knew that when you go up a mountain, the air becomes less dense and it's harder to breathe. So that's why there's limits to how high aircraft can fly, because the air becomes too thin, I guess you could say, or less dense. That aircraft cannot push off of it anymore to be able to keep going. So there is a limit, and it's around 25 miles high. So nobody's been like over 25 to 30 miles high. They claim to go thousands and thousands of miles high, but again, that's just space agencies, which are, in my opinion...
No, yeah, really, it's really not that high.
Well, they say the ISS is over 2,000 miles away. Oh no, over 200 miles away, I'm sorry. But again, the limit's only about 25.
The space station?
The space station, the ISS, supposedly. Which again, nobody's actually in there, in my opinion. It's all just CGI. It's all done in a computer, in a room. All their filming that they do about that.
And they have their green screen in the back as the window.
Pretty much. There's actually a lot of glitches on YouTube that show that they do use blue screens, green screens, augmented reality. You've heard of augmented reality, right? You could interact with CGI objects, in real time, for example.
So what would you say like these lights are then?
They're fascinating, but in reality, nobody knows what they actually are. They are constant though. The constellations are always there every year. They always reset. So yeah, there's something's going on with the sky, obviously, but nobody knows what they actually are, and what's powering them. In other words, what's giving them their light. In other words, again, they give us stories and theories of what they are, but it's all to fuel the heliocentric model. The fact is, again, nobody's been outside of the Earth. That's the fact. So I don't know what's outside of the Earth.
The heliocentric model as in that the galaxy revolves around the sun.
Yes, that we revolve around the sun, and the sun revolves around the Milky Way, and all of that. So that's the heliocentric model.
Oh, hey! we're talking about science right now and all this stuff.
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, that's all interesting.
No, yeah.
What other stuff do you have in there?
So, let me see. No, sure. You guys are really interested. That's really good. So again, Euclidean geometry, blueprints. It's just pretty easy. Again, the horizon, for example, here. A lot of people think that when you elevate high, you're able to see the curvature of the Earth, but again, only through GoPros. But this is what the horizon actually looks like when you're like 20 miles.
This picture?
These are all high altitude balloon images that people have done. There's hundreds of these. Different people have done them. If you don't use a GoPro and you use a standard lens, then this is what the horizon looks like. So again, another thing about the horizon is that it rises with you as you elevate. If the ground was truly curving down away from you, like at sea level, for example, when you elevate, that horizon shouldn't rise with you. You should literally start looking down at the horizon, but you never look down at the horizon. It rises in front of you. You're only able to, when you elevate, you increase your angle of view, and you're able to see further in front of you. And that's why the horizon is always just the limit of perspective. that's in front of you.
So you're saying that NASA, the government, they've admitted to this being CGI,
Yes.
this being tampered
Yes,
with?
the only one they claim that supposedly is real is from the moon landing trips that they did in 1972.
Why is that kind of surprising? I feel like that's the one that, like, if anything, it should be tampered with.
Right, because it's like back in the day when technology was less, advanced.
You know, when
could
people
say.
talk about the, they're like, oh, like, why is the flag moving? Like, why is the
Yes,
flag
because there shouldn't be any wind up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of anomalies with the moon landing footage, like a lot. You could obviously see wires too that the astronauts have. You see the reflection of wires when they're walking and they trip over and then they kind of come back up again. It's just so fake that it's laughable, the moon landing. But they admit the only one that, in my opinion, that image that they have from 1972 is a photograph of a painting, in my opinion. So an artist created like painted basically a globe, in my opinion, and they basically just took a photograph of that.
So you don't think the moon landing too?
Oh no, 100%. Yeah, there's no way. Again, the moon, they tell us that it's terra firma as well, that you can physically land on it, right? But again, nobody knows what it actually is. In my opinion, it's just some kind of LED light, And I'm saying LED light very like ignorantly because that's the closest thing that I could think of. But the technology of what the Earth is super advanced that we can't even comprehend.
So you think we're projecting that into the sky?
I don't think we as humans, I think whatever created this place. Yeah, so there is definitely some kind of God. I don't claim to know what that God is because in my opinion that's just religion, which is what, again, anybody trying to tell you what this place is and how it came to be is just a religion. So the globe Earth model, the whole heliocentric, why is a religion? Because that's no different than Christians being told what this place is. Again, the only difference is that they're claiming that what they're saying is real, but it's not. So again, the whole globe Earth is a religion. It's based on faith. You have to just believe it blindly. So again, and the sun, same thing. Nobody knows what it actually is. In my opinion, the sun is actually very small in comparison to the Earth, and it just moves. And it just moves around the Earth, and it only illuminates the area it's above. And that's why we have night and day.
So then it's not heliocentric.
It's not heliocentric. It's geocentric. So everything revolves around the Earth instead. But again, they tell us that the sun is like 500 times bigger than the Earth, or I don't know how many times bigger. In reality, it's the other way around. It's way smaller than the Earth.
Why is it revolving around the sun?
I think it has something to do with
because of gravity, or is that...
No. I think it has something to do with the electromagnetic field here on Earth, because there is an electromagnetic field.
Isn't gravity magnetic?
No, they claim that it's magnetic, but magnets only affect metal, right? They're claiming gravity affects all matter equally, which that kind of force doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. A force in free fall has never been measured because that kind of force doesn't exist. So imagine, for example, you know how we're saying that matter always reacts to acceleration?
Yeah.
If I accelerate this direction, we know that it's going to get pushed in that direction. You see that? This will always...
This way first.
Yes, exactly. So they're trying to say that there's a force that exists that can accelerate this container without any reaction of the ball inside. That kind of force doesn't exist. Now imagine a gravity
You're
machine.
talking about gravity.
Yeah, if we're talking about gravity, imagine if they actually did have a gravity machine, they should be able to accelerate this without any reaction. But again, this will always react, always, 100% of the time. It will always get pushed. Because in order for this to be able to move, that motion creates a pressure inside this water, and that pressure basically pushes anything that's less dense. So you can't have acceleration without pressure. And that's what they're claiming, that you could have acceleration without pressure, which defies physics, in other words.
So then what do you think is the force that's like always keeping us on the ground?
Again, it's the continuous motion of the Earth moving up. That's
it's like catching up to us?
Yes. So when you jump up, people think that you come back down, but it's simply the Earth catches up. Yes, the Earth simply catches up again.
What do you think would happen if we all jumped at the same time? Just hypothetically, like that question. Like, what do you think would happen?
Yeah, like
I mean, I don't think anything would happen because I don't think we have enough mass to be able to stop the motion of the Earth. So I don't think.
So how does that work? Like, how is are you saying like the Earth is always constantly moving up?
Yes, it's always constantly moving up like that. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it has to be moving up through infinite space. And the fact is, I don't know the exact motion or speed of the Earth.
So, if I jump in the air and then I go back down on the ground, it's because the Earth is like...
catching up to you.
So does that mean like they are like...
Should we all jump at the same time?
So like if I jump, boom, I just jumped. The Earth and then
they caught up to you too. Yeah, because they're connected to the Earth. Exactly. So let me show you this real quick. That way you could. So buoyancy, right? Remember I told you that buoyancy, it's the upwards push of the Earth. It's that chain reaction of a push. I did this experiment with a slinky and a ping pong ball in a container. Yeah. So when I'm holding it, right here, for example, we can see that the ping pong ball stretches the slinky because of the buoyant force when connected to the earth. As soon as I release that container into free fall, that upwards buoyant force vanishes and the slinky contracts and the ping pong ball gets pushed down because the slinky retracts. So that upwards push vanishes when it's not connected to the earth.
So are you saying like this is just kind of like a visual representation of like it catching up?
Yeah, so the slinky being stretched up by the ping pong ball shows that the ping pong ball has a buoyant effect right now when it's connected to the earth. But as soon as it's not connected to me or the earth, that upwards push of the ping pong ball vanishes. It's only there when you're physically connected to the earth. That chain reaction of motion vanishes, in other words. So again, it's literally the earth pushing up on the table right now, which is pushing up on this bottle, which is pushing up on the water, which is pushing up on the ball. So that's what's making this ball float. It's that chain reaction of a push.
So like a plane taking off and then landing, the plane landing, that's the earth catching back up.
Yes.
Because then that kind of makes it to where like the earth is kind of working in regards to like us and everything else, where I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah, so if a helicopter, obviously it's pushing off of the air to gain altitude. If you turn off the engine of a helicopter, again, it's literally the earth that comes up to crash into the helicopter. It's not the helicopter that crashed into the earth. So like, same thing with airplanes. When they're flying level, for example, once they gain altitude and then start flying level, what's happening is that the only way that they're maintaining level is they have their nose slightly pointing up, like 1 or 2 degrees. And also the wings the air is pushing up on the wings, which is creating a buoyant effect as well. And that's how an airplane is able to maintain level flight, by slightly pointing its nose up, and also by utilizing the wings and the air pushing up on the wings. So again, it's all utilizing the upwards push. It's an upwards push. That's what buoyancy is. You can look it up. It's an upwards push, and it's a real force.
Yeah.
In free fall, however, something that's in free fall, there is no force there, and that's why gravity is just a theory again. The force is up, not down, measurably, testably. So everything shows us that, basically. Again, like I showed you with the accelerometers as well.
Yeah.
You guys want to see the 2-minute video real quick that I did with an accelerometer?
Yeah, I'll see it real quick.
Real quick before you guys go.
How was your study?
It's good. Yeah. Next class, like, gotta go soon.
Okay.
2-minute video.
Experiments. Here it is.
Just put 2 minutes.
Here it is.
A digital accelerometer is a device that detects the presence of a force or acceleration. For example, when at rest and connected to the earth, it detects 1 g-force. As soon as I accelerate it from being at rest, the accelerometer detects that acceleration by increasing the g-force. Whether I accelerate it to the right, to the left, up, or down, the accelerometer will always detect the acceleration 100% of the time. However, the instant I put the accelerometer into freefall, it detects a deceleration. It goes from 1 g down to 0. If the accelerometer was accelerating down in freefall, it would detect that acceleration by increasing from 1 g, not decreasing. Not only does the accelerometer show that there's no detectable acceleration in freefall, it also shows that the vector or force of the Earth is up. When I switch to the vector tab of the accelerometer, we can see when at rest on Earth, it detects that the vector or force is down, as shown by the green line. However, the vector on the phone is inverted because when I apply a force to the right, the vector goes to the left. And when I apply a force to the left, the vector goes to the right. When I apply a force down, the vector inverts up. And when I apply a force up, the downwards vector increases, showing that the vector on the phone is inverted from the true direction of the force, or vector. So when the phone is at rest on the Earth and knowing that the vector is inverted, the direction of the force or vector is up. Also, when the accelerometer is in free fall, the vector completely vanishes, showing that it's not being accelerated down by any force. Which proves that the force or vector of the Earth is up, not down.
So you guys seen the little green line, right? That's kind of showing the direction of where the force is being applied. But when it's in free fall, that line vanishes. So there is no detectable force in free fall. So again, that literally shows us, that there is no force in free fall. Not only that, the digital accelerometers, but analog accelerometers, which is different states of matter inside a container, and you accelerate the container. That matter inside the container should react accordingly to the direction of the force, which doesn't, again, in free fall. Like when I show with the bottle, the ping pong ball and the steel ball. Yeah. So again, everything shows us that there is no downward force, and again, that's required for the globe Earth to even be, to even exist. And again, that's where, in my opinion, this whole motionless flat Earth thing is all controlled, because they're kind of keeping that idea alive that there is a downwards acceleration, even though we can't measure it. But that's just to give, basically, to give credence to the globe as well. So now they're debating this false dichotomy. In other words, it's a false debate. In other words, it's being controlled. Both sides are being controlled. Yeah, so yeah, man. So that's the number one lie on Earth, that there is no pulling force of gravity. It's a push.
And that's what I've been saying.
Wow.
All right, thank you so
man.
much.
Appreciate it. All right, guys, take care. Bye bye. All right, there you go. Wow, that was a really, really, really good conversation. Really, really, really good conversation. Let me go ahead and put some of this. I mean, the fact, I haven't had someone like that in a minute, like in a while, where it's like, well, let me see what else you got. Let me see what else you got. Usually most people just kind of run away as soon as they hear what the topic is. They're looking for a way out, right? But nah, they were really, really open-minded to the point where they wanted to see more. What else you got in there, when you told me, or, looking inside the fly, or, oh, you haven't talked about Euclidean geometry, well, explain that to me, right? So that just shows that they were really open-minded. I don't get, many people like that, which is great to actually see that people are interested. Because, I mean, in my opinion, there's nothing else that's more interesting than this topic, in my opinion. Nothing comes close to it. The fact that we were lied to about the nature of the Earth, the nature of our existence, in other words, there's nothing that comes close to it. There's no other lie on Earth, or on the internet for that matter, that's bigger than this lie, in other words. So yeah, let me go ahead and put this away real quick. So back to what I was saying about not knowing the exact speed or motion of the Earth. Again, I'm gonna say this on record. I'm not gonna make any positive claims when it comes to what the exact motion or speed or trajectory of the Earth is. I'm not gonna make any positive claims when it comes to that. If I ever did, I'm gonna take them back. Again, because that's no different, again, than making claims about ice walls. Again, at the end of the day, just because we don't know the layout of the Earth, or just because we don't have a map of the Earth, that doesn't change the fact that the Earth is level. Same thing with the motion of the Earth. Just because we don't know the exact speed, the exact motion of the Earth, that doesn't mean that the Earth is not in upwards motion. Obviously physics shows that the Earth is in upwards motion, just like physics shows that the Earth is a level plane. So I'm gonna pull back on those claims, if I ever did make any. But I'm not gonna make any positive claims of what the motion of the Earth is. In my opinion, it's something that can be talked about after. It's irrelevant when it comes to establishing the direction of the force, whether it's up or down. So I'm not gonna make any positive claims about it anymore, or if I ever did. I'm gonna pull back from that, because again, in my opinion, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant to talk about the exact motion and the speed, and if it's accelerating or constant. In my opinion, it's completely irrelevant when it comes to establishing, again, if the Earth is in upwards motion or not. What is relevant, it's understanding how matter behaves. What's the cause of buoyancy? Buoyancy being a chain reaction of motion. If I accelerate this way, the chain reaction of motion pushes the buoyant object in that same direction as the force. Buoyancy, in other words, buoyancy always follows the direction of the force 100% of the time. So understanding that, is what's going to show you that the force of the Earth is up. We don't need to know the speed, the exact motion or trajectory of the Earth to know that. Understanding basic physics shows us that. So yeah, that's the only positive claims that I'm going to make, is that the Earth is a level plane and that it's in upwards motion. Again, the layout of the Earth, the speed of the Earth, what's outside of the Earth, what's the path or trajectory of the Earth, all of that is irrelevant. It doesn't change the fact, again, that the Earth is level in upwards motion. And it doesn't change the fact that the globe Earth doesn't exist without those claims, without the claim of a pulling force, for example. So So again, that's where I stand right now. Again, I don't think it's important or even relevant at this point in time, especially when my main focus of this channel from the start was to debunk the globe Earth. That is where my attention's gonna go, and it's where my attention's always been, is debunking the globe. Again, getting into the specifics or the details about the motion or the layout of the Earth, or how far it extends, all of that, it's irrelevant. When it comes to debunking the globe, it is irrelevant. Now when we're trying to find out what the Earth actually is, the dimensions of it, then that's when it becomes relevant. But at this point in time, my main focus is debunking the globe Earth. Why? Because over 95% of the population believe that it's a globe. So that's where my main focus is to highlight how physics shows that the globe Earth is physically impossible. So that's what I'm going to focus on. I'm not going to get into debates about, maps of the Earth and models of the Earth. And again, that includes the motion of the Earth, what it is exactly, what the speed is exactly. I'm not going to entertain none of that because it's irrelevant. That's why. So if anybody tries to call me out for avoiding that aspect of the Earth, then you can go ahead and do that, but I'm giving you my reasoning to why it's irrelevant, So that's where I stand. Again, at the end of the day, if I'm being 100% honest, if anybody's being 100% honest, the fact is nobody knows not only the dimensions of the Earth, but nobody knows the exact speed or trajectory or motion of the Earth. Fact. Nobody knows exactly how it's moving. What's causing it to move? That's another thing that falls into. What's causing the Earth to move up? Well, if you can't tell me what's causing it to move, then it can't be moving. Well, if you can't tell me the speed of the Earth, or if it's constant or accelerating, if you can't tell me if it's constant or accelerating, then that means the Earth is not in motion. Again, that is the same logic. It's the same flawed logic. Well, if you can tell me what's outside of the Earth, then the Earth cannot be moving. What's the mechanism? What's pushing up the Earth, right? Again, nobody knows that. Fact is, buoyancy, matter shows that the force of the Earth is up, without a shadow of a doubt. Again, we don't need to know all of the specifics of that to know that it is an upwards motion. Matter shows us that. Reality shows us that. Our understanding of that, our God-given senses, show us that. Now, if you want to claim that, the Earth is not moving up, it's actually a pulling force that moves objects down towards the Earth. Because again, at the end of the day, you only have two options. It's either when you release an object, right? It's either the object moved down towards the Earth, or the Earth moved up to the object. You only have two options, right? And if every experiment and every device shows that there is no downwards acceleration, there is no downwards force, and all of these same devices show that the force of the Earth is actually up, it doesn't take a genius to understand that the force of the Earth is coming from underneath. It's a push. It doesn't take a genius to understand that. And then because it doesn't take a genius to understand that, it's the reason why you have so much propaganda, so much bullshit around this topic of gravity, especially with the motionless flat Earth. It just comes to show how they infiltrated this from the start. This whole flat Earth versus globe Earth, especially obviously the motionless flat Earth, has been infiltrated from the start. It was a deception from the start. As soon as people come to realize that, the faster this can move forward. That the whole flat Earth, the whole mainstream flat Earth, the motionless flat Earth, it was all a deception from the start. Again, the globe Earth has no leg to stand on without a pulling force of gravity, but the motionless flat earthers are giving them that leg to stand on. Why? Right? Well, that's because that's the controlled opposition. That's again, no different than Democrats versus Republican. They claim to be on different sides of the argument, but in reality, they have the same goal. So again, the whole globe Earth versus flat Earth claim to be on different sides of the argument, but they have the same goal, is to keep people believing in a downwards force of gravity or some kind of pulling force, magical pulling force that can accelerate without creating any pressure or without any effects of acceleration. Again, that's fantasy. That doesn't exist. That's just nonsense. You know, it's Harry Potter physics at the end of the day. It cannot be recreated, demonstrated, or reproduced in any way, shape, or form. You know, it goes against the laws of physics as we know it. That claim goes against the laws of physics as we know it. So people can choose to believe it. That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's not what reality shows. You know, physics debunks that claim. Easy. Again, a water bottle with matter inside of it, a digital accelerometer like on your phone, are the only devices you need to debunk the globe Earth, literally, to debunk the pulling force of gravity, literally. So it's literally that simple. So, let me check the chat real quick. See if there's anything relevant. I was debating. Okay, before I check the message, I was debating doing the live stream in portrait mode instead of landscape mode, because I've noticed that when you're in portrait mode or vertically, when people are watching a live like that, for example, and you scroll, you basically are scrolling through live streams now, all vertical live streams. So I've noticed that a lot of I've noticed in a couple channels, not flat Earth channels, just off-topic channels, I've noticed that that more people come across these live streams that are in the vertical orientation, because a lot of people are just scrolling. So that's how, now if my channel is completely shadow banned, then it would make sense that obviously it's not going to come out in the algorithms. People are not going to just scroll and then come across my channel. So I wanted to test it, just to see if anybody new comes across the channel. So maybe in the next live stream, I'll try to do a live stream in portrait and then see if that makes any difference with reaching new people online, at least. Again, I've noticed that people get like 10 times the views when they live stream in portrait rather than landscape. And again, it's because I think you're able to just scroll live streams when you're in portrait, kind of like shorts. You just scroll through shorts. When you're watching a live stream, and vertically, you're able to scroll and then you just get random live streams like that. All of them are live streams when you start scrolling. So a lot of people come across videos like that too. So I do want to test it out to see if it makes a difference with reaching new people online, because that would be nice. At the end of the day, it's about spreading this information. So it would be good to test it just to see if it affects the numbers at the end of the day. But I have low hopes, because I'm pretty sure my channel is completely shadow banned, and it probably won't even come up. But the only way is to test it out, So let me check the live chat. What's up, Dell? Good to see you. Amanda, Beyond Belief, Cal40, Boom Me, Kurt Cooper, Graham 9. Is that how you pronounce it? Selenelian, V Thomas, Iwan, Realm Walker, Renewed Awareness. What's up? I guess let me read some of the comments real quick. Beyond Belief, I agree. You've moved the truth forward in this area more than anyone, Dell. I appreciate your determination over the years. Thank you. I agree. I completely agree with Beyond Belief there. If it wasn't for you, Dell, pushing this forward as much as you did when you did, I don't know if it would have, blew up the way it did. A lot of people might say it's still a minority, which it is, but at the end of the day, these demonstrations destroy the globe Earth, you know, obliterate it at the end of the day, you know. So kudos, you know, for pushing forward and, you know, for pushing this, you know, on your channel, you know. One man has detector, Simon. All we have to do is stick to showing people that it is moving up. Why and how fast are not needed to know right now. Exactly. We can prove that it is, and that's enough to change the game. Exactly. Again, it doesn't make a difference whether we know the speed of the Earth or the motion, the exact motion of the Earth or not. You know, when it comes to debunking the globe, it doesn't make a difference. So then and there, it becomes irrelevant, in my opinion. You know, it just becomes a distraction right now. You know, so yeah, I completely agree. Beyond belief, it's the same as people coming away from a globe. They jump to why and the motive before doing any investigation. Exactly. Like jumping ahead. And again, they do that to kind of like try to find flaws or trying to find holes in the claims or in the proofs that debunk the globe, for example. They try to find holes in that. So they start jumping ahead into stuff that doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, look at flight paths. This flight path wouldn't make any sense on a flat Earth. Or look at the sun, like the fucking Antarctic sun, right? The 24 Antarctic sun. You know, instead of looking at the physics of that debunk the globe, right? They start jumping into fucking irrelevant shit about the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And again, oh, you see, that doesn't fit the flat Earth model, blah, 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 blah. So therefore, you know, the globe, it's a globe. Right? Because it fits the globe Earth model, you know. It doesn't fit the flat Earth model. But again, at the end of the day, nobody knows exactly out of the Earth. Nobody knows exactly how the sun and moon works, how the stars work. None of that. The luminaries are completely irrelevant when it comes to establishing the ground we're standing on. If we want to measure the ground we're standing on to prove whether it's curving or not, then we physically measure the ground that we're standing on. If we want to determine whether gravity is a pulling force or a pushing force, we physically test for that using devices, using accelerometers. Why? Because accelerometers not only detect acceleration, but they also detect the presence of a force. Again, they show that there is no acceleration in a free fall, and they show that the force of the Earth is up. So again, it doesn't take a genius, you know. It's very simple, very, very elementary to understand this, you know. And that's why there's so much propaganda behind this subject, you know. Dell, but apparently it was Flat Earth Society. The question I always had was, well, what was their reasoning? There was none offered. Exactly. They just made a baseless claim. That's true. The Flat Earth Society never gave the reasoning to why they came to that conclusion of the Earth moving up. You know, I guess the only thing they had was, gravity is bullshit because objects don't accelerate down at 9.2 meters per second. So it's the Earth that's moving up at 9.2 meters per second. It's the other way around. But again, they didn't offer any physics, any practicality, or any reasoning for that matter to how they came to that conclusion. It was just a claim, a baseless claim that they made. You know, because again, they want people just like parrots, just repeating what they heard. You know, but that's not what I strive for. I want people to understand, you know, what they're claiming. In other words, you know, I wouldn't make any claims if I don't understand something, especially any positive claims. So again, it comes with understanding first, and then you can push forward. Then you can start sharing the information. But if you start sharing information without having an understanding for yourself, you're only going to muddy the waters. When people actually have a logical question to throw back at you and you can't answer it, then it kind of shows that you don't know anything. So someone new is not gonna, not that you're trying to convince them, but it's not even gonna be, they're not even gonna be interested in what you have to say anymore. You know, if you don't understand what you're saying, nobody's gonna be interested in what else you have to say. You know, so that's why stick to what you know, simplify it to yourself, and then you can start speaking to people. Because otherwise you're just gonna be muddying the waters, you know. man, I was so lazy to come out today. Like, fuck. Because again, on my days off, I usually like to just relax, spend time with the family, obviously, just be at home, you know. Because obviously I don't get to do that when I work. But like, fuck, I was kind of lazy. I was like, fuck, but yeah, I was like, fuck it, just get it over with. You know, it's worth it at the end of the day. Any little effort, even though it might not make a huge difference, makes a little difference. Like, look at the conversation I just had with the two students. The last conversation I had, it went great. They were so interested, you know, they wanted to learn more, and that's all I can ask for, you know. So even just having a conversation with them is gonna be worth it to have came out and do this, you know. Again, if you're doing this for subscribers and for views and to become popular or whatever, like to become a somebody, like, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know, you should be doing this literally to literally just spread awareness, to reach new people. That's the goal, you know. And again, the more people that do this, the more people we're gonna reach, you know. So again, once they speak to someone like myself, it cannot be ignored anymore. You could only put it in the back of your head for so long, but you can't ignore it anymore. You can't unknow what you already know, you know. You can't do that. It's not like Men in Black with a fucking laser and then you can wipe your memory, or, you know, you can't do that to yourself. You can't wipe your memory to not want to know anymore. So it's always gonna be there. It's either you address it or you continue with willful ignorance, you know. So that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like, we all know the internet is completely censored, you know. Like, channels like myself and channels like that are completely shadow banned, you know. The numbers are stumped, you know. We know this. We know that it's gonna be harder to reach new people online, which I knew that from the start, to be honest. But they can't stop me from reaching new people in the real world. You know, coming out, you know, to the public, coming out to universities and speaking to real people. They can't stop me from doing that. You know, getting my point across, showing the demonstrations, you know, they can't stop me from doing that. You know, so at the end of the day, sure, they can have some kind of control online, but when it comes to the real world, they have limited control. It's how much we allow them to control us at that point. You know, that's what it comes down to, and that's why the main goal for them is to keep people ignorant, to keep people dumb, to keep people down, to keep people, you know, in an ignorant state of mind at the end of the day, to blindly follow, just to blindly believe, you know. And that's how they're able to push their agendas, is by keeping people ignorant, you know. So again, coming out here and sharing common sense, sharing, you know, real knowledge, real physics, you know, it's what's gonna move this forward. Amanda, it's beautiful how simple it is to debunk stationary and globe, and anyone can do it too. Exactly. It's very simple. It's elementary. It's literally elementary. It's that simple. Beyond belief, it takes intellectual honesty that many seem to lack. Yep, I agree. Eyes wide shut, what's up? What's up, Earthship Bear? Terry Hayes, what's up? Good to see you guys. Seven alien boats sailing over bendy oceans. No, yeah. How far back am I? Let me see. Oh, okay, I'm kind of catching up already. What's up, RJ? What's up, Base Truther? Good to see you guys. Base Truther, are you still open to the idea there could be more continents beyond Antarctica? I'm open to the idea that there might not even be an ice wall, and it could just be more continents. But I'm also open to the idea that there could be an ice wall and there could be more continents. So at the end of the day, the fact that I don't know kind of has to leave me open-minded to what could be. So I can't say no, there is no more continents beyond Antarctica, or no, that Antarctica doesn't exist. The fact that I don't know, you know, by default, I have to be open to where there could be, Antarctica could be there, and there could be more continents beyond that. Or maybe Antarctica doesn't exist and it's just more continents beyond. Or there isn't, and maybe it's just the Earth is smaller than we think, you know. So at the end of the day, I don't know, which by default leaves me open to what it could be, you know. It's when you start to claim you do know, or start making positive claims about ice walls, and you do know the layout of the Earth now, and you basically buy into a map. When you do that, then you're closing off other possibilities at that point. You're becoming closed-minded. You know, when you start believing in certain maps and you start believing in certain claims without any proof, you become closed-minded because you're shutting down other ideas. So the fact is, I don't know. So again, I'm staying open-minded to what it could be, because at the end of the day, we don't know. So yeah, for all we know, there could be more continents beyond, you know, what we think is there, you know. Well, what I would say is that I don't think the Earth is infinite, because I know there is a lot of people that like to claim that the Earth is an infinite plane. I don't buy into that, you know. In my opinion, it's not. And again, keywords, in my opinion, it's not. So again, people could believe that if they want, but the only way to find out is just to go in a straight line, right? To see what happens. And yeah, to see if we ever do find a limit, or if it's infinite, right? Well, if it's infinite, we'll never know. That's the fact, you know. But in my opinion, the fact that the Earth is in upwards motion shows that the Earth cannot be an infinite plane, in my opinion. It just doesn't work. It wouldn't work, you know. That's for the stationary flat earthers. That's what the stationary flat earthers like to claim, that the Earth is an infinite plane, right? And it's just density and buoyancy, you know, that causes the motion or the pressure here on Earth, you know. So matter creates its own motion, basically. There's something inside of the matter that's programmed into the matter that creates its own motion. So that's the claim from the stationary flat earthers. You know, fact is, matter is inanimate and cannot move on its own. So that force, that motion, that chain reaction of motion has to be coming from outside of the matter, out with, you know, because the matter cannot move itself. So if we see matter moving, like a helium balloon moving up, we know that helium balloon is not moving itself up. We know that it's something external that's causing that being the air. So knowing that it's the air pressure that's moving up, that's pushing up the helium balloon, and again, air is inanimate again. The air cannot move itself, just like the helium cannot move itself. So it's something outside of the air that's moving up, that's pushing up the air, that's pushing up the helium. So again, the Earth. So it's the Earth that's causing that upwards motion. Again, what's moving the Earth? Because Earth is, you could say it's inanimate as well. It's like a machine. So what's moving the Earth? What's the mechanism of the Earth? Well, guess what? Nobody's been outside of the Earth to verify what that is. But that doesn't negate the fact that it is in upwards motion, and that matter cannot move itself, you know. So it's literally that simple. Jolly Man, what's up? V Thomas. Dell, full exploration should be demanded. Exactly. Once this hits the mainstream, I guess you could say, or a mass scale, that the force of the Earth is up and the globe Earth is impossible. Once the globe Earth gets debunked at a mass scale, the next step should be full exploration. Literally. We have the technology, we have the equipment, you know, to fully explore this place. So that should be the next step. after exposing the globe. Because a lot of people say, well, what now? Well, a lot of people like to say, well, okay, the Earth is not a globe, and okay, so the Earth is level, right? So what now? So right now, we're in a position where this needs to be pushed forward for more people to understand it. We're a minority within the minority. So once you come to this realization that the Earth is not a globe and it's a level plane in upwards motion, well, then the next step is to share that with others, is to spread the information. That's the next step right now. Once the majority, or once this hits mass scale and the globe Earth, it's debunked and everybody understands that, then the next step after that will be full exploration of this place and what the limits to this place, how far it extends. Where are we in relation to the north, for example, or to Europe? What's the layout? How far it extends. All of that is the next step after that. And then we can move forward after that. Based on what we find, based on what's discovered. Then we could go on to the next step once we have full exploration. But until then, it's pointless. If you settle down and live a life not knowing exactly what this space is, at least like the limits of it, and having full exploration, then you're only gonna live a lie. At the end of the day. It's only when we come to an understanding about what this place is, or how far it extends and the limits of it, is then we can move forward. Only then. But again, before all of that comes, we have to push this out, because the majority believe, again, including flat earthers, that there's this magical force in free fall that's keeping this whole globe Earth via alive, and the whole motionless flat Earth alive as well. So until we debunk that those claims, we can't move forward. So anybody that's new to this and come across this and asks, well, what do we do now? Or what now, right? Okay, the Earth is flat, or the Earth is level, right? And the Earth is not a globe. But what now? Well, spread it. Spread your findings. Spread the knowledge, the physics, to new people. And again, once it hits some mass scale, then we can move on to the next step, which will be full exploration. So again, until then, it's just pushing forward and trying to share with new people. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we're gonna be recorded.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to be recorded, then it's fine.
Well, if I can't answer the question, I'm gonna just walk away.
Nah, they're very easy. Very easy. There's 2 multiple choice. Very easy. So I have 3 box trucks here, and there's a bowling ball hanging with a string. So, out of these 3 box trucks, one is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So out of these 3, which one is at rest? B, yes. How did you know that one's at rest?
It's just that rest is just hanging down.
Exactly. It's not moving. It's not swinging. Exactly. Which one's accelerating forward?
This one.
Yes. How did you know that one's accelerating forward?
Because I don't know. I wouldn't say it's common sense, but
I mean, it is common sense.
If something's moving forward, like when you're in the car,
you push back. Yeah. So it's because of inertia. That's the simple word.
Yeah.
So it resists the motion. So we can say that the bowling ball is being left behind because the whole truck is moving forward. So the bowling ball is being left behind. So it appears to swing back, right? So yeah, you got it. So the second one is pretty similar, but instead of a bowling ball, it's a helium balloon inside a box truck. So out of these 3, which one is at rest?
The middle one?
Yes, for the same reason, because it's not moving in any direction.
I would say the same for everything.
Okay, which one's accelerating forward? Nope.
Oh,
This
that one?
is actually C.
Okay.
So, unlike
the way helium is?
Yes, because helium is less dense than air. So when the box truck starts to move forward or accelerate forward, for example, the air inside of the box truck is also being moved through space, right?
Oh, so it's okay.
So the helium balloon is less dense than the air, so the air is able to push it. So with the bowling ball, obviously the air's not able to push the bowling ball, so it gets left behind. So in this case, it's able to push the helium. So you've heard of buoyancy, right?
Yeah.
So buoyancy is this is what that is.
Yes, of course I know what buoyancy
Yes.
is.
So buoyancy is a chain reaction of a force or motion. So the box truck pushing the air pushes the helium, and it's a chain reaction of motion. So.
I'm sorry, I gotta go.
All right, no worries. Here,
Yeah,
take my flyer, and go to universities to talk about this subject, and you can check it out. All right, you guys take care. No, he got it, but But yeah. Excessive, what's up? If I went exploring in any direction too far, we get turned away by gunpoint by Navy ships. It's been documented for decades. Here's the thing though, again, if we push this forward, who funds the military? Who funds the Navy? We do, the people do, with our tax dollars, right? If people come to a common understanding about that we've been lied to at a mass scale by the people that we're entrusting with our money, for example, we're not gonna have a Navy that's being controlled, you know, the way it is. We're not gonna have military. It's gonna be real people, real honest people that are gonna be doing the exploring, in my opinion. You know, it's not gonna be funded by a controlling government at that point, you know. So even if there was military that turned people at gunpoint, at the end of the day, they're doing a job, you know, that's being funded by us. So for example, if we eradicate the economy, for example, I know that's going to be a long way from now. It's not going to happen right away. I know that. You know, there's steps that we got to go through before we even conceptualize getting rid of the economy, because we depend on it so much. You know, there has to be steps. Point being is, if we were to get to that point, then you're not going to have these military. If we got rid of the economy, you're not going to have military turning people at gunpoint. Guess what? Because most of them people in military and Navy, they're real people. They're like us. They're just doing a job. You know, once they realize too that we've been lied to as well, they're gonna be on our side. They're gonna be on the side of truth. You know, you're either gonna be on the side of truth or you're gonna be a snake. So it's gonna come down to those two options. Oh yeah, definitely. So
stupid.
no, very easy. Two very easy multiple choice questions. So 3 box trucks here, and there's a bowling ball hanging with a string. So one of these box trucks is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So which one of these 3 is at rest?
At rest?
Yeah, at rest. So
space class, your physics, an object in motion stays in motion.
So out of these 3, which one is at rest? Yes. B.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that would be obvious, yes.
Yeah, obvious. What
Because this one would be accelerating forward, this one would be just stopping, and then that's like...
Could we say is accelerating in reverse too?
Yeah, that's, yeah, you can.
You'll get the opposite effect. So how did you know this one's accelerating forward? Because that was going to be my next question.
Because it's moving back.
Yeah.
When it's moving forward, this force is going to go this way.
Yeah.
So because of inertia.
Yeah.
So basically, the bowling ball, it's...
Do 5th graders know inertia?
I mean, that's just a fancy word.
Guys, I'm just a business student.
It's just a fancy word, but if you show us an elementary student, a 5th grader, how Apple behaves, they'll understand that will always happen.
Yeah.
You know, for example, this is hanging right here, right? If I accelerate in this direction, once I explain it to someone, what direction is the ball going to swing? Towards the back, exactly. So again, it's very simple, very elementary to understand it. But we put fancy words on it, you know, that kind of complicated it a bit.
Yeah.
So you guys got the first one, pretty good. So the second one?
The second one gonna be harder?
No, it's pretty similar actually, but instead of a bowling ball, it's a helium balloon tied to a string. So out of these 3, which one is at rest?
That is a trick question.
Don't overthink it. It's again.
B.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, again, because the balloon's not reacting, it's not moving in any direction, so that one's at rest. Which one's accelerating forward?
I just don't want to see.
That'll seem stupid for her. A.
Okay, that one's actually C.
I knew it.
So unlike the bowling ball,
wrong.
the air, when you accelerate the truck in this direction, the air inside of it is also moving through space because the air is trapped inside. Anything that's less dense than the air, it's going to get pushed by the air.
Oh, okay.
So the helium, because it's less dense than air, it gets pushed in the direction of the force. So you guys heard of buoyancy, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So that's a buoyant effect that we're experiencing here.
Oh.
It's a chain reaction of motion. So again, the air moving, it's just moving the helium balloon in that same direction. So here, let me show you this.
I'm not smarter than a 5th grader. Fuck. Business student, guys.
So here, since we understand, again, the helium balloon will always follow the direction of the force. Again, I have an apple here hanging with a string, which is more dense than air, and a helium balloon that's less dense than air. Based on what we understand, what direction did it accelerate this cargo van? To the left or to the right? To the right. right? Yes, you guys got it exactly, because again, the helium balloon shows you the direction the air is being moved.
Yeah.
Because the air is able to push it in that same direction. So another one very similar. Here we go. This one is water, a water container with a ping pong ball that's buoyant and a steel ball. So what direction did I accelerate? To the left? Yes, to the left, exactly. Because the water, being more dense than the ping pong ball, is pushing it in that direction, meaning the water is also moving in that direction. So again, matter will always react to acceleration 100% of the time, you know? So let me show you guys this one.
Awesome.
So 2 water bottles here. They're both at rest, but only one was accelerated down. I only accelerated one of these down. So I had it like this, and I accelerated one of them down. Which one did I accelerate down? The one on the left or the one on the... Yes.
Yeah.
That's the obvious one, because again, matter reacts to the acceleration, and you got the multi-directional motion again.
Yeah.
The steel ball being left behind and the ping pong ball being pushed down in the direction of the force. Let me ask you this. If I'm holding this water bottle at rest right now and I release it into free fall, do you believe it accelerates down towards the earth?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's going down faster now.
Right, you guys believe that, right? That gravity pulls it down to the earth,
Yeah.
right? So here's the thing. The one on the left, it was actually free fall. But we can see that there is no reaction of the matter to that acceleration, because I don't know if you guys knew, gravity is just a theory. So a physical downwards acceleration has never been measured. So a force in free fall has never been detected. So that's why gravity is just a theory.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, if we understand buoyancy always follows the direction of the force, if I have a helium balloon here on Earth and I release it, what direction does it go? Up. Why does it go up, you think?
Because it's less dense in the air.
Yes, but again, we understand that the air also has to be moving in that same direction to be able to push something that's less dense. So what's moving the air up to be able to push up the helium?
I haven't taken physics yet.
Very simple. So the fact
The
is...
moon's gravitational pull.
Hey, that's actually not bad.
Yeah.
That's the first time I hear that. But the fact is, it's the Earth that's literally pushing up on the air right now, that's compressing it, that's pushing up the helium.
Yeah.
So it's literally the Earth moving up that's creating that motion. So you guys believe the Earth is a ball, right?
Yeah.
Like this, right?
It's round,
If we
yeah.
could prove that it's the Earth that's moving up, creating the pressure and buoyant effect of going up, if we could prove that, and up is relative on a ball, in other words, if you're standing here, up is this way, if you're standing down here, up is this way, in every direction away from the center, how can the Earth be moving up in every direction at the same time if it was a ball?
I don't know. You got this one.
How would I get this one? How, does a 5th grader know this?
Well, if you explain it to them, they'll understand it.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The fact is...
online. Everyone's be like, "Wow, that goes."
No, trust me.
These
Trust me.
motherfuckers
Nobody
are
gets this.
stupid.
No. So the fact is that it wouldn't work. Because if it's the ground literally moving up right now and not pulling you down to the earth, then the whole globe earth model will have to be expanding in every direction, which will mean it will explode. So in order for people to believe in the ball earth theory, they first have to believe in the theory of gravity being a pulling force. But the fact is the earth's force is a push, not a pull. So right now the earth is pushing up against you right now. It's not pulling you towards it like a magnet. That kind of force in free fall again doesn't exist. Again, matter doesn't react to that force or acceleration in free fall because it's not there. So when you release an object into free fall, for example, like that, it looks like the object goes down towards the earth, but that's because everything else is already in upwards motion. So it's everything that moves up to the object.
I feel like I have heard this before.
Yeah, so it's the earth that moves up to this free falling object. So that's why this doesn't accelerate.
I remember that. Yeah.
So that's the reality. So again, that wouldn't work from a globe. So that's the number one proof that debunks the globe, that gravity is not a pull, it's a push of the earth. So the fact is the earth is a level plane, and everybody standing on it, everybody's up is it's not relative, it's singular. So everybody's orientation is the same. So if you live here in the States, it's no different than in Europe. Everybody's up is parallel.
Yeah.
So there is no such thing as up being relative. That's only from a ball earth concept, which doesn't exist. So if I was to ask you guys respectfully, what's the number one proof that makes you believe the earth is a ball?
Photos.
Okay, photos is usually the number one, usually for most people that do say. But
I've never fallen off the earth, guys.
so here, let me just show you the pictures first. So these are official NASA images. This is 2002 and this is from 2012, and they admit that these are CGI. They admit that they don't have a genuine photograph of the Earth from space. So all of the images that were shown, they're all CGI. They're all made in a computer. So a photograph from the Earth from outer space doesn't exist, admittedly so. So NASA admits this. So the only place you're ever going to see curvature of the Earth is through CGI images like this, or through GoPro camera lenses or fisheye lenses that curve horizontal lines. So, but if you use a standard camera and you elevate, the horizon will always remain horizontal. you'll never see the curvature of the Earth. If the curvature of the Earth was there, would you admit we should be able to physically measure it, right? If the curvature of the Earth did exist, we should be able to physically measure it, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. So do you guys know the radius of the Earth that they tell us?
No.
It's 3,959 miles. That's the radius.
We should have known this. We took a geology class.
Yeah. So based on the radius of the Earth, using that simple using the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, using that simple calculation, we can calculate for the drop of the Earth. So in the first mile, there should be an 8-inch drop. Second mile, 32 inches, and by the third mile, there should be 6 feet of measurable curvature. So how do we measure for this curve, right? So if we went out to a giant lake that had water, standing body of water that was miles across, the water is obviously going to be parallel to anything that's level above it. You know, we won't be able to physically measure that curvature, but they're trying to tell us that every lake on Earth is bending 8 inches per mile squared. So in 3 miles, there's going to be a 6-foot drop of that water bending, but that defies physics, because again, when the physics of water, when contained and at rest, will show that the surface is always horizontal, in other words, and that's what level means. You know, there's no deviation in elevation from any starting point and any end point, but they're claiming that level means curveness. So they're going against practical physics, in other words. So this will be the number 2 proof that debunks the globe, that there is no physical curvature that can be measured. You know, and again, other than images, you said you don't fall off the Earth, right? So here's the thing: we have air pressure here on Earth, right, which is about 4.7 psi. So air has pressure. So in order for air to be able to maintain pressure, it needs to be physically contained. So the Earth, in my opinion, is not an open system like they claim. It's a closed system. So that's why the air is able to maintain
That makes
pressure.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We're learning about systems.
Yeah, exactly. That's the second law of thermodynamics. It has to do with entropy. So in order to have a vacuum next to a pressurized system, you need a solid barrier separating both. Because as soon as you remove that barrier, equilibrium happens. The high pressure always moves to the lower pressure until there's equilibrium. So the fact that they're claiming that outer space is a negative pressure compared to Earth's pressure without a solid barrier separating the two defies the laws of physics of entropy. So the fact is, in my opinion, the Earth is a contained system, so you can't fall off of it. So we're literally inside like a terrarium.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's what the Earth is. It's like a terrarium that's in upwards motion. So it's literally pushing up right now.
Are you a physics major?
Oh, no. Nah, I'm just a physics enthusiast.
Oh, what's your major?
I actually didn't go to university, so I do this in my free time.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, this is very elementary. So this is why I come out to present this. Very easy.
I don't think I've ever learned
this is not like advanced physics or, you know.
My dad studied physics.
Yeah, like.
So he really likes it.
Right. So again, this is very fundamental. You know, you build off of these principles. This is what you build off of. You know, so basically, is there anything else that you guys can bring to the table that makes you believe the Earth is a ball, besides the images, or any reason to why you believe that? Would it be safe to say that you just kind of believed it blindly just because you were told?
Yes.
Yes, right? That will be the honest answer.
Also, because if anyone here says they're flat earther, everyone's like, ha ha ha, what are you saying?
So here's the thing.
So
So the Earth is not flat, it's level, and there's a huge difference. Flat has nothing to do with orientation. Level is an orientation that's perpendicular to the vertical. And the vertical is the force of the Earth. But the force of the Earth is not down, it's up. So it's a push. So again, the Earth is level because it has orientation, because it's in motion. So again, obviously you guys are the flat earthers, right? So over 95% of flat earthers claim the Earth is motionless. So what does that mean? They deny that the Earth exerts a force. So they're no different than the globe Earth. They actually believe that there is a force in free fall that cannot be measured as well. So they believe objects go down towards the Earth, but it's actually the other way around. So that's why they're keeping this whole topic underground, I guess you could say. It's by having this false debate, flat Earth versus globe Earth. They're both believing the same thing, which objects obviously don't accelerate down. They believe that objects do accelerate down. So again, without that belief, you can't have a globe. If we could prove that it's literally the ground moving up, that globe couldn't exist, because it would just explode. So that's how they're keeping this whole false debate going. So the whole flat Earth, motionless flat Earth especially, it's all being controlled by the same people that are pushing the globe. So it's no different than Republicans versus Democrats. the flat Earth versus the globe is.
Yeah.
So again, that's what they're keeping this
It was
poll.
funny. I saw this guy. He was at a Trump rally, and he started interviewing people. Are you a flat earther? And they say yes. And he's like, "What makes you think the Earth is flat?"
Yes.
Like,
And they didn't give a cohesive answer.
yeah, they don't have a cohesive answer.
Over 95% of flat earthers are dumb as fuck too. They just believe what they were told. Right? And they couldn't explain.
Have you I want to
Yes.
ask them, like, have you ever like challenged the or like the narrative that you're taught to believe? Like, do you have anything else that you're thinking of
So,
inside your head? Like,
I don't like to make positive claims about things that I can't prove. So a lot of people like to say, well, how fast is the Earth moving? What's outside of the Earth? And, you know, I don't know none of that. What I do know, again, physics shows me that the Earth is a level plane based on the physics of water, and that it's in upwards motion based on the fact that buoyancy shows you the direction of the force.
yeah, that's correct.
So those two are the only positive claims that I know and that I will make because I can back them up with physics. All the other logistics about how the Earth is moving, how fast it's moving, all of that to me is irrelevant when it comes to establishing whether the Earth is a globe or not. But it will be something intriguing to talk about after we expose this, you know, to the masses, you know. So yeah, at the end of the day, I don't know what this place actually is, what this existence is about. You know, I don't know if I do know that matter cannot come from nothing, you know, and this is a creation. You know, if you come across an iPhone in the desert, you don't automatically assume that it created itself.
Yeah.
So this reality didn't create itself. So there's definitely some kind of God behind all this, or higher power that created this place and us, in other words. But I don't claim to know what that is because I don't go into religion. I only go with what I
I'm
know.
not religious either, so-
Exactly. Well, believe it or not, the globe Earth is the biggest religion on Earth because religions are based on faith and tell you what the Earth actually is, and that's what the heliocentric model tells you. You know, they tell you about evolution, they tell you about, you know, outer space and all of that, and all of that is just beliefs. It's not backed by nothing physical. You know, so again, it does become a religion at one point because it's based on faith, which again nobody can prove. So yeah, that's why I'm out here, because this is the #1 censored topic online. Again, the fact that even flat earthers are being brainwashed into another belief that they can't even back up, you know, it just shows that, you know, how controlled this is, you know. So I'm a minority within the minority. I get a lot of hate from, actually I get more hate from flat earthers than globers, even though I'm here exposing the globe. You know, that just shows how brainwashed these people are. You know, because what happened is that they release like flat earth videos of like of a guru, a flat earth guru online, for example, and they just praise that guy now. There's multiple characters, believe it or not, that have like 500,000 subscribers, 250,000 subscribers, and these flat earthers just follow them blindly. Everything they say, and all of these are motionless flat earthers again. And yeah, that's how they're controlling this. You know, people are not thinking for themselves at the end of the day. They're just following a guru, for example. So again, at the end of the day, it's about you having an understanding for yourself, and things that you can prove to yourself based on how reality works. You know. So any questions you have for me before you guys go, or? So
physics, science.
Now, well, here's another thing. Yes, have you guys heard of Euclidean geometry? So Euclidean geometry is a geometry that is used for construction. So when they lay out railroads or when they build bridges, all the blueprints, for example, are all plumbs and levels, which are horizontals and verticals, regardless of distance.
I heard that architecture, that is part of architecture, just like those blueprints and stuff, is one of the hardest majors, actually.
Yeah,
because you have math, you have art, you have everything in it.
Yes.
And you have to do all that shit.
So all the datum lines are horizontal. If there was a curve of the Earth, then after 10, 20 miles, they should take account of the curvature of the Earth, which they don't. All the blueprints show that the Earth is basically a level plane, in other words. So again, Euclidean geometry is what's used, not spherical geometry. You know, so that's another proof, in other words, that debunks the globe.
Yeah, I'm just not knowledgeable to this stuff, man.
It's very easy once you start looking into
There's
it.
the reason I chose business, guys.
Oh yeah, business. Yeah, I guess you could say that has nothing to do with
I do
this.
have to take physics and chemistry. So.
Okay. No, yeah, it's pretty fun. Again, physics, you know,
hate chem.
it's how we
Well,
were.
I don't hate it. It's just like when you learn that stuff and then it doesn't go through your brain, you're like, what am I even looking at?
It is one of, like, I will say, it is like something that's always just intriguing.
Yeah.
That's the thing, though. If physics cannot be simplified to explain it to a child, then in my opinion, it's either a lie, or we're talking about like advanced physics now. You know, but when we're talking about basic physics, like for example about the Earth, if you cannot simplify it to explain to a child, then it's pretty much bullshit. Like the theory of relativity. You know, Einstein's theory of relativity is his take on trying to explain why gravity is a force, but it's not a force. So he acknowledges that gravity is not a force, but he came up with the theory of relativity, which is basically the bending and warping of space-time. So he's claiming that space is bending towards the center of the Earth. It's flowing, and that's why we are not able to detect that force, because that's not a force. It's just space-time moving, and that's why an object falls. But the fact is that it's just a theory, and it's just an explanation to try and keep this idea alive of the globe Earth. You know, again, the fact is the Earth, the force of the Earth is up. It's a push. That's easily understandable. It's really that simple. So,
well, thank you for talking.
Yeah, so here, let me give you my
confused and equally...
Here, here's my channel. You guys can give it a look. I go to other universities as well, and in there are the top. You could take this with you. In there are the top 6 proofs that debunk the globe. On top of the fact that gravity is not a pull; it's a push. So you can give that a look. And yeah, I'm super censored online, by the way. So this is the only way I could get my channel out.
Yeah.
It doesn't get recommended in the algorithms whatsoever. You know, it's the only way people will come across it. Oh, appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Nice talking to you, man.
Yeah, take care.
And what's your name?
My name's William.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Wow, and I almost didn't come out today. That's crazy. I almost didn't come out today. Crazy. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put more time in my parking real quick. Duke Nukem, finally smart students. Yeah, I know. I know. Again, being honest with yourself is like the smartest position you can take. If you're not honest with yourself and you're swayed by opinions, I guess, you know, or baseless claims, then that's not very smart. You know. So again, being honest with yourself is one of the smartest positions you can take. So yeah, definitely some of the smartest students that I had conversations with. Del, the plum is the prime datum. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. The prime datum is the plum, because from that plum you derive level. 90 degrees from plum. It's not the other way around. You don't derive plum from level. Nope. You derive level from plum. So yeah. So the prime datum line is plum, for sure. Yeah, I don't know what kind of question is that, Jolly Man. How does the plum move upward with the earth? Well, if you're holding a plumb line with a string, it's moving up because you're moving up as well. So you holding it on top right here, it's what's moving it up. It's like when if you were to move it this way or up, and you just hold it at rest, the motion's coming from your hand pulling on the string, which is moving it up. Van de Graaff, Zach is saying that level is perpendicular to the electric field. I kid you not. The electric field that doesn't produce a force. That's funny. Beyond belief, you don't have directionality without motion, the jolly man. Have respect for the facts of reality. For real. Oh shoot. Jolly man, what about the mass differential between the Earth and the plum? What about it? What about the mass differential that creates the motion? How does that create motion? Just because there's two different masses. So two things have two different masses, how does that create a vector? Right? That's the question. So yes, falling down is a vector. No. Objects falling down in free fall is not a vector. In order to have a vector, you require a force, and objects in free fall don't exert a force. You know, there is no acceleration down in free fall. There is no force. There is no vector. Down is a relative visual interpretation. Exactly. It's only relative. It's only a visual interpretation based on your position. Because you're connected to the Earth, moving up with the Earth, an object, you know, appearing to go down, it's only apparent. It's not a physical motion down of the object. It only appears to move down. That's because everything else is in upwards motion. Demonstrable reality. Once it was explained to me, I saw it immediately. Others are just stupid. Yeah, I guess. And, you know, stupid is a strong word, but I mean, what else? what else could be said, right? Or willfully ignorant, right? I mean, yeah. The reason down is because you have directionality. The reason you have directionality is due to the constant motion. Heavier than air objects fall through its medium, nothing to support the mass / weight. Yeah, that's when you have a force already. So yeah, a bowling ball cannot get pushed by the air because it's more dense, so it appears to fall through the air, but it's the air moving through the ball, through the bowling ball. How do we know that? Because a helium balloon will show you that the air is moving up, therefore is able to push up the helium balloon. That upwards motion of the air, again, when you release a bowling ball, for example, it looks like the bowling ball is moving through the air, but it's actually the air moving through the bowling ball. So that's what we're witnessing. So yeah, the density of the air is not dense enough to push up a bowling ball like it does a helium balloon. But that doesn't mean that the bowling ball it's accelerating down. That's nonsense. Del heavy is not a force, exactly. Heavy. The globe earthers are having a field day. I know. You always have a motionless flat earther make all these ridiculous claims about weight being a force and density and buoyancy creating themselves, and you don't need an external force to cause that and all that. And obviously the globe earthers are having a field day with that. Obviously, and that's how they're able to ridicule this in the mainstream platforms. Because you have motionless flat earthers making their stupid ass claims about what causes directionality, or what gives us our vector. And obviously the globe earthers are just able to just rip them apart based on their claims. They don't even have to provide any physics themselves to prove the globe. All they do is just rip apart the flat earther, They rip apart the stupid ass claims, and then that's it. They get a point, right? And it gives the impression that they won a debate, right? Or they won the argument and they proved their point, right? By highlighting the stupidity of the flat earthers, right? And yeah, that's the exact same tactics that they've always used, by pigeonholing people into models. Then what they do is, if you claim a certain model, like the AE map, for example, and the ice wall, then the globe earther will just rip apart those models, find the inconsistencies of these models, and now it looks like they won. So you see, the flat earthers are dumb. So the earth must be a globe, right? That's the conclusion that the onlooker comes to. Somebody that hasn't really heard about this subject much and then watches a video like that, then yeah, they could be easily swayed by stuff like that. They don't want to be part of the flat earthers. They don't want to, because look how stupid they are. Look at the claims that they make, and look how easily they got destroyed, right? So yeah, of course Earth is not flat. They easily get destroyed, But it's a controlled opposition. It's the motionless flat earthers that have their models, which is completely irrelevant when it comes to the physics that debunks the globe. Again, bringing up these models in debates, just opens up the door to be ridiculed, And that's exactly what happens. That's like the only fuel the globe earthers have, is to debate ignorant flat earthers, that don't know what they're talking about, that don't represent the facts, that don't represent the physics, that debunks the globe. Why? Because they have a bias. They want the earth to be motionless. Most of these people are either doing it deliberately or they have a bias. It's one of the two. It's no different than globe earthers. They have a bias towards their belief, and they're gonna warp physics to fit their model, to fit their belief. And you're seeing the exact same thing with flat earthers. Now you have globe earthers versus flat earthers warping their own models to fit, the claims, or to fit reality. They're both warping their fucking models just to fit to try and fit the claims. So it's pretty pathetic. It's ridiculous. Demonstrable reality. Without motion, there is no vector. Simple. Exactly. You can't have a vector without motion. You need something that's moving to give you, and that's what gives you directionality. You know, that's what gives you a vector. That's what gives you orientation. You can't have orientation without motion, in other words. You know, again, and motion, you know, being a force. You can't have orientation without a force. At least the globe earthers acknowledge that, right? Their gravity force, that's not a force, you know, at least they acknowledge that you need a force for orientation. Unlike the flat earthers, most motionless flat earthers claim that there is no force. You know, that orientation is just programmed into this reality somehow, into the matter. So, hey, what's up? So, 2 very easy multiple choice questions.
Okay.
See if you guys can get
there's
it.
multiple
Okay.
choice.
Multiple choice, so it's even easier.
Alright.
So 3 box trucks, and there's a bowling ball hanging with a string.
Yeah.
So one of these box trucks is at rest, one is accelerating forward, and one is accelerating in reverse. So which one is at rest from these 3?
Which one's at rest?
Which one's at rest?
Looks like B.
Yeah, it's the obvious one, right?
Yeah.
Which one's accelerating forward?
A, I'm guessing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, A. You got it. Why would you say A?
It's because once it has rest, when it starts moving, it's gonna look like the ball's like going backwards because it hasn't.
it's on a state rest.
Yeah, because of inertia. So
Yeah.
the bowling ball's being left behind, you could say.
Yeah.
Because everything is moving, so it's appearing to swing back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right, you guys got the first one. So the second one, pretty similar,
Okay.
but instead of a bowling ball, it's a helium balloon.
Okay.
So out of these 3, which one is at rest?
B again.
Yeah, exactly. Which one is accelerating forward?
Does that change?
No.
I say A still.
I think. I mean, I'm like running with a balloon. It's still gonna be
Yeah, behind.
right.
The only thing that is different with that is that this is inside a container.
So there's no air pushing back.
Exactly.
I think it's B.
No, B is at rest.
Okay.
So which one's accelerating forward?
Just straight up no.
Shit. Well, I mean. Then.
Well, I'm going A, so you can go
you're
C
still,
if
you're
you
still
want.
going A?
Yeah.
I'll go C.
Okay, it is C.
Okay.
So the simple
Alright.
explanation for that is that the helium is less dense than the air. So when the
Yeah.
truck is accelerating forward, all the air inside the truck is also moving through space in that same direction. Because the air is more dense than helium, is able to push the helium in that same
Right,
direction.
right,
Alright.
So that's what happens. So here, let me show you this. I actually did this experiment myself inside a cargo van. And I want to see if you guys could tell me what direction did I accelerate this cargo van? To the right or to the left? So the app was obviously more dense than air, and the
Yeah.
helium is less dense than air. So what direction did I accelerate? To the right?
Right.
Yes, obviously, because that's what buoyancy is. So you guys heard of buoyancy, right?
Yeah.
So it's a chain reaction of a force, buoyancy.
Right.
So matter pushing on something else, it's pushing something else. So that's a chain reaction of a force. So this one, same principles, but it's a water bottle, container filled with water,
Yeah.
with a ping pong ball and a steel ball. So what direction did I accelerate this one? To the right or to the left?
The left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, the water, same thing. The water's moving,
full of my hands real quick.
I'm pushing the water to the left, and the
Yeah.
water's able to push the ping pong ball in that same direction.
Right.
The water's moving through space.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let me show you guys one more. So in this one, I had 2 water bottles, again with a ping pong ball and a steel ball. I had them both at rest like this,
Yeah.
but I only accelerated one down.
Yeah.
Which one did I accelerate down? Left or right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
obvious one,
Yeah.
exactly. Because
Yeah.
again, the steel ball is being left behind because the water's not able to push it, but
Yeah.
it's able to push the ping pong ball down.
Yeah.
It shows you. So matter will always react to acceleration 100% of the time, always. So let me ask you guys this question real quick. If I have this water bottle like this, for example, and I release it into free fall,
Yeah.
do you believe it accelerated down towards the earth?
No, the water went
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Do you believe the water accelerates down? I
The
mean,
water?
I mean the water bottle.
The
whole-
bottle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole water bottle. Okay,
yeah.
so here's the thing. The one on the left, is actually free fall, but we can see that there is no reaction to that acceleration.
There's no oxygen or air inside.
No, the fact is, I don't know if you guys knew, gravity is just a theory. So gravity is just a theory because a physical downwards acceleration has never been measured, and the reason why is because matter doesn't react to acceleration in free fall. So there is no measurable force in free fall. So again, if we understand buoyancy is a chain reaction of a force or of motion, if I have a helium balloon here on Earth and I release it, what direction does it go?
Up.
Yeah, it goes up.
Yeah.
Why do you think it goes up?
because helium's less dense
than air.
Yeah.
And again, the air obviously is more dense. It's literally moving in that same direction as well. Up is able to push the helium up. So we know inanimate matter cannot move by itself. So what's pushing on the air to be able to push up the helium?
Gravitational pull.
I don't know.
So again, a lot of people would say gravity, but gravity, first of all, is not a force that can be measured. It's just a theory. And again, if the force was truly acting downwards, then helium balloons wouldn't be able to go the opposite direction. Because if the air is being moved down, the air has to be moving up to be able to push a helium up. So the fact is the Earth that's literally pushing up on the air, which is pushing up on the helium. That's the chain reaction of motion, of buoyancy that we experience here. So the fact is the Earth doesn't exert a pulling force, is exerting a pushing force right now. So the Earth is not pulling you down towards it, it's pushing up against you right now. So again, if I have an object and I release it into free fall, it didn't move down towards the Earth, it's the Earth that moved up to the object. So right now everything's moving up simultaneously. If you're connected to the Earth, then you're moving up. And if something's not connected to the Earth, then it's the Earth that comes up to meet it. So nothing accelerates down in free fall, in other words. So here's the thing. You guys believe the Earth is a ball, right?
Okay.
If we could prove that it's literally the ground moving up, you know, and up is relative on a ball. In other words, if you're standing here, up is this way. If you're standing out here, up is this way. In every direction away from the center. If we could prove that it's the ground moving up, or the Earth, how can the Earth be moving up in every direction at the same time if it was a ball?
That's what I would say is going inwards.
Yeah.
So how can the Earth be moving up like this, up like this, up like this, up like at the same time?
Maybe it's expanding.
Exactly. That's the only way it would work. But the fact is, that would mean the Earth would just explode, because it's not growing by the second. We know that. So in order for people to believe in the ball Earth theory, they first have to believe in the theory of gravity being a pulling force, which doesn't exist. The force of the Earth is a push. So the fact that the Earth is literally moving up, creating the buoyant effect here on Earth, literally debunks the globe Earth. It's the number one proof that debunks the globe. Because again, if we could debunk gravity as a pulling force, then the whole globe Earth model falls apart. Because they need the pulling force of gravity to explain orbits, to explain how we stick to the ball. Again, but if it's the other way around, if it's the Earth moving up instead, then that wouldn't work from a globe. So the fact is, the Earth is a level plane, and we're all standing on that, and it's literally pushing up against us. So again, orientation is singular on Earth, not relative. They're trying to tell us that orientation is relative, but the fact is it's singular. So everybody's vertical here is the same anywhere else on Earth. Everybody's up is the same. So everybody's sky is always above. It doesn't go, you know, if you're in Australia, the sky is not below you. Yeah. That's nonsense. That's bullshit, in other words. So if I was to ask you guys respectfully, what's the number one proof that makes you believe the Earth is a ball?
It's what?
Earth's like round.
What makes you believe the Earth is a ball? What's the number one thing or proof?
If you go up really high on a mountain, yeah, there's a horizon.
So you think you could see the horizon?
Yeah.
So let me show you real quick. So the only place you're ever going to see curvature of the Earth, first of all, is, you guys are familiar with the fisheye lens, like in GoPro cameras, for example. It warps horizontal lines, the fisheye lens. So that's the only place you're ever going to see curvature of people doing high altitude videos, or through CGI images like this. So these are official NASA images from 2002 and from 2012, and they admit that they don't have a real photograph of the Earth from space. They admit that they're all CGI. They make them in a computer. So if you actually elevate, like in a mountain or even 20 miles in the sky without a fisheye lens, this is what the horizon looks like. And there's hundreds of different videos of people sending giant helium balloons with cameras attached to them, and the horizon's always horizontal. If you don't use a GoPro fisheye lens, you use the standard lens. So again, this will be impossible on a globe, you know, because obviously the horizon shouldn't rise with you. It's just if you're looking at the horizon at sea level, for example, like this, when you elevate, that horizon should never rise with you, because it's supposedly starting to curve down. So eventually you should start looking down at the horizon, which you never do. When you elevate, the horizon always appears to rise with you, and it's always in front of you, and it's always horizontal. So again, a physical measurement of the horizon or the Earth has never been done, or to show a curve, in other words. So just real quick, because obviously if we could see the curve of the Earth, we should be able to measure it, right? So the radius of the Earth that they tell us is 3,959 miles. So using a simple formula like the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we can calculate how much curvature there should be there based on the radius. So in the first mile, they should be at 8 inches drop, second mile 32 inches, and by the third mile, they should be 6 feet of curvature. So how do we measure for that curvature, right? So easy. We go to a giant lake that's miles across, that's filled with water, and if we actually measure the surface of the lake, it's going to show us that the surface is always going to be parallel to anything horizontal above it, because water, when containing at rest, always forms a level surface, which is horizontal. But they're trying to tell us that the surface of lakes are bending 8 inches per mile squared. So in other words, there's a 6-foot drop in 3 miles, and it's supposedly maintaining that curve. But we understand that lakes don't do that. The surface of water always forms an equal surface, which is level. So this is real physics, and this will be the ball earth physics they want us to believe, which again doesn't exist. This will be the number 2 proof that debunks the globe. The fact that there is no measurable curvature of the earth, and the physics of water shows us that.
Air pressure pushing down on this to cause that?
No, because first of all, air is not dense enough to manipulate water. You know, so the air's not, we won't be able to push on water. So the explanation is that the pulling force of gravity is bending the water. That's what the explanation is. But again, gravity as a force doesn't exist. A downwards force has never been measured or detected. And that's because, again, when you release an object into free fall, it's not being pulled towards the earth. It's literally the earth that's coming up to meet it. So again, in order for people to believe the globe earth, they require this belief in the pulling force of gravity. And that's why that's pushed on us so much, even in schools, with the theory of relativity by Einstein. That's his best explanation or take on trying to explain how the earth is a globe still with no force in free fall. Because the theory of relativity, he claims that it's not a force, but it acts like a force. So now they're double speaking. So again, it's just bullshit, in other words, the theory of relativity. So yeah, any questions for me before you guys go?
No.
No? All right, so here, let me give you my channel. You guys can check it out. I go to other universities and talk about this subject, and you can take one too. I have a couple. You guys can take it inside of the 6 top proofs that debunk the globe earth, and then that's my channel in the front as well. So you guys can check it out. All right, man. You guys take care. Alrighty, so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start packing. And that's gonna be it for today. That's all, folks. So yeah, 3 very good conversations. Obviously, I think the first one was the best one, followed by the second one, and followed by the third. But all in all, they were all great conversations. So that was good. That was good. So let me just start packing. I don't want to have to put more time on the meters. Alrighty, so yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. Thanks again for everybody that showed up, everybody that watches the videos, that shares them, and that spreads truth, you know. Thanks to all of you, and yeah, well, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.